Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fresh Crits of Melbourne. We're back again at the church at Glenvale with Caulfield Carnegie Cycling Club on another fairly overcast Sunday morning, the 23rd of October. Now, we have a little special treat in store for everyone. This Fresh Crits video that you are watching right now, I personally believe has a higher production value than the Hollywood blockbuster hit Inception that hit the cinemas a few years ago. And the reason I say this is because we don't just have one, but we have two cameras live today. And let me introduce a man who probably doesn't need an introduction at this stage, but we are with Jensen, the great plowright, as he's once again off the front. And I'm sure he needs no introduction. He goes all right at the Melbourne to Warney. But I'd be mindful if you lend him your gravel bike because he may lose it down a stream in Bright. But as you can see here, once again, the great man's off the front. And I think it's worth calling out that when will the peloton realise that JP's signature move at Glenvale is to launch attack in the neutral zone? But time and time again, he manages to roll off the front with pretty much ease, and now there's already a 10 to 15 second gap in the peloton behind. So, look, bit of housekeeping. If you are new to here, I try to put up as many crit videos as possible with full power data, heart rate, all that kind of stuff, analysis, and give my take of how the race went down. So if you do like this stuff, please hit that like button. Most importantly, hit that subscribe button, because if we get some more subscribers, there's going to be many drones flying around the race recording. I've already got a couple of drone pilots, I think they might be called, who are keen to give this a red hot shot. Nate, you're one of them. So without further ado, let's skip ahead. We're in the break now, and I want to introduce the second rider. All right, we are now on board with Mr. Dean Madden. Now, if you haven't come across this name before, that is absolutely fine. Dean started off as a bit of a mountain biker before testing his teeth in the road scene. Now, you might be asking, what sort of rider is this Dean Madden? Well, he's a bit of an everything sort of rider, you know. He can jump in brakes, he can hold a really steady, sustained power, as you'll see in this clip. But also, when it comes down to final lap sort of shenanigans, he can unleash a nice 1400 watt sprint quite easily. So he is a bit of a do-it-all rider, and someone that you're going to need to watch out for in the next coming crit races. But so yeah, here you can see he's jumped in the break with myself in the rear cam there, barely struggling to hang on to the pace of TJ, who's recently doing his own crit videos. Please check them out at The Clique Online. If you type that into YouTube, you'll find them. But yeah, look, having the ability to run two cameras in this race really gives you that extra ability to see what's going on in specific parts of the race. So right now you can see in the fortunate condition that I'm in the break there. We've got Dino currently on the front with Jensen right behind. And you can see Dean's giving me the elbow to flick. I've pulled through and I look cooked. Head down, and Jensen says, I've had enough of this. This is way too slow. He basically, as a nice seated attack, drops me off the wheel and has left me to fend for myself. Whilst Dino, he's been caught a little bit napping, and he's had to surge up to 900 watts just to hold the wheel. And Jensen, it looks like he's just making this look really easy. But all of a sudden, there's been a 3-gap bike length being put in because I'm not able to hold the wheel. I look behind, I ask TJ to pull through. But TJ's in two minds as well. He's thinking, look, it's only, 9 minutes into an hour-long race. Is there really much point in putting in a huge effort to get across? But Dino's come alongside and he said, mate, come on, let's do it. Let's try to get across. And he's put a bit of pressure on TJ. So he's pushing the pedals quite hard to bridge across. But already that gap is now getting out to, 5-6 seconds. Dino's like, okay, well, this is a threatening move. We've had Jensen off the front, is obviously a really strong rider. Alex Edney's in some amazing form. Watch out for him in the next couple of races. He's tearing it apart. So Dino wants to get involved. He's up for this. So he bridges across with a nice effort, 600 watts, all seated, drives it across, jumps onto the wheel of Alex Edney in the Cos kit, and now there is a really strong 3-man break off the front, and you can't even see the rest of the peloton behind. There has to be a gap of at least 15 to 20 seconds already established with these 3 riders. And as we all know, the art of a good team breakaway is you need to have riders that all complement themselves and they all have a very similar sort of skill base. And that's what we have here. We have really strong, powerful riders that are able to sustain a high wattage for a prolonged amount of time. So you can see here, they're about to pass the riders in C grade on the left-hand side. Now, as we enter this corner, Dean's left a little bit of a gap of Alex in front of him, and unfortunately he loses the wheels we come around this corner, purely because we've got all of these C grade riders there kind of shutting down that nice racing line that Dean would normally take. So he's having to spike up to like 700 watts just to jump on the wheel again. Heart rate 189 beats per minute. For any other human on this planet, they'd be thinking, mate, he's cooked. How can this guy stay in a break with these hitters with a heart rate of 190 beats a minute? And that's what separates the mere mortals from Dean Madden, ladies and gentlemen. So let's skip a little bit further ahead in this break and see how it plays out for the boys. All right, so we are back on board with the great JP as the boys have been driving the pace, average speed of, 46 to 50 kilometers per hour, coming up to the 18-minute mark. I think there's a decent gap on the peloton behind. It must be at least 30 seconds. Dean's on the front at the moment. He's about to flick the elbow for JP to roll through. And the point of this clip I wanted to highlight is the different form of racing line. So we're going to let this clip play, and I'm going to freeze it right about here. So in Dean's situation, I think, in my opinion, he only has really two ways to take this corner. One is the shallow line, which is highlighted by this green line here. Or what could have Dean done is shifted right to where Alex and the boys are and followed Jensen's line, which shows a much more open, fast line through the corner that allows him to hit the apex right here. So I'm going to play both clips now to see which one was faster, and let me know what you think. Pipe up in the comments below. Because I'd like to know if any of you guys had some nice cornering tactics that you like to implement on the race course. So you're about to see JP hit the corner with speed, hit that apex, pedal through the corner, and then swing nice and wide. Meanwhile, Dino has to cut really hard on the inside, doesn't hit the corner with speed, and then has to jump on the pedals in order to catch back onto the boys in front. So obviously there's a few things with that. When you're having to do those extra efforts just to kind of bridge across to that group, that's matches that you shouldn't really be burning. Meanwhile, if you stay nice and wide and hit that apex with speed, that means you're going to come out just as fast as you went in, not meaning you have to burn any extra matches. But enough of that. Let's move on a little bit further in this race and see if this break can stay away the entire race. So after about 21 minutes in the break, you can see just coming around the corner there, the peloton has got the group in their sights. The effort the boys did to stay out there for this long was absolutely incredible. I got some data here, have a look. So yeah, almost 22 minutes out in front with an average speed of 47.5 Ks, 374 watt average and a 395 normalized. The group have finally been caught back. They're absolutely shattered. It's a huge effort to stay away for this long. And now what do you do in this race? This is a question for the audience. Do you then filter back? Or do you want to keep near the front so you can be ready for that counter? Please comment below. For JP though, he's like, mate, there is no chance. I'm going to be rolling in the bunch with you guys. I'm going to get right back on the offensive and try to get off the front. The legs feel good and there's a couple of riders already animating stuff. So off he goes, drills it, 136, launches off Ryland Mosby, catches the draft, hits up Alex, gets him in his sights, launches through them, and lines up the three riders that are up the road because he doesn't want to let that sort of threatening group get away as he comes around the last corner back onto the main straight. Now, you have to question it, why you've just been in the break, your legs are going to be pretty mighty sore, but I guess the best form of defense is offense, as you see Tom Leaper roll around and he drills it. So then now JP's left in two minds. He's just done a few massive efforts followed by, I think that might be CJ from Bridge Lane. Who's going to do this extra effort to bring these guys back? It's Jensen's come across to the group up the front. It doesn't look like these guys are too motivated to do any work. Tom's looking around being like, mate, I'm not going to chase it. Are you going to chase it? And Jensen's like, I'm not going to chase it. Why don't you chase it? Meanwhile, Dean's just tapping away, getting his heart rate back down from 200 beats a minute. I'm at the back of the bunch just trying to, with my tongue hanging out, just trying to survive. Joshy, as you see there in the blue nicks, he senses that group up the road is pretty threatening, so he launches us across, and all of a sudden you've got 4 different groups spread out across the road. Meanwhile, the main peloton are kind of left in no man's land, forcing other people to try to do the chase. It's not until a few more riders go. Tom gets the message and he starts to bridge across. There's me looking absolutely cooked with Geordie on my wheel, mate. That's a bad wheel to be on, mate. Trust me. And now, it's really, really threatening group. And the issue is, if you're just a pack fodder in this grade, these sort of surging attacks, you have to be so ready for them. Because if you're not, like I'm not here, as JP's about to ride past me, this sort of constant efforts, this constant attack is what absolutely saps you. And then what you end up finding yourself is on the back of the bunch, and then obviously you get that concertina effect, I think it's called, where as you accelerate out of corners, that stretches the bunch a little bit more, so you never actually get any sufficient rest. Meanwhile, whilst Jensen's sitting in the big peloton behind, Dean has seen the threatening, fairly decent group of riders up the road, and he's put in a big 600-watt effort to bridge across, passing Mosby, who'll probably jump onto Geordie's wheel behind. Dean's in the mix thinking, look, I need to stay with the front of the group. I think this is a threatening bunch. There's almost 8-9 riders up here. Tom Leapers, Alta, super, super strong riders. So this is a really good-looking group. But obviously when his heart rate's at 188 beats a minute, this is not a recovery ride for him at all. He's on the absolute limit. Joshy, he's on the right there. He gets past. He's blowing as well. It's absolutely on, and it's just constant, like I said before, it's just constant surging attacks. It's just going to wear all the legs off the riders. You see Paddy here looking always business in his mean white shirt there. I'm actually impressed he manages to keep that thing so white. So look, let's skip a little bit ahead. And we'll check out to see what JP's doing in the bunch that's a couple of seconds behind Dino here. So by the time JP gets back to the front, Dino's pulled a turn, Leapers on the front. But JP's realised there's a really threatening group of 3 up the road. Not that group there that just went around the corner. I think that's the group of C grade. But there are 3 guys. It's Bentley in the Oliver's kit, a guy from Rosetta, and CJ from Bridgestone. And obviously, with a group like that, that's one that is a really threatening group. Obviously, one that can stay away for the remainder of the race, where there is about just over 25 Ks left. Please ignore the distance on JP's screen there. And Jensen does an all-out effort to get across here. He goes really deep, 60 seconds of about 700 watts just to make it across to this break. And this is only after doing all that work initially in the break. He's absolutely blowing to get there, finally latches on, and obviously sits in a few turns in order to get that heart rate down from 193 beats, something a little bit more respectable. But look, what we'll do is we're going to skip a little bit ahead in this break because these guys stay away for a while, and we'll highlight a couple of the key moments in this break.
Just be catch up. Just be aero. We'll go second group. We'll go another one. Yeah.
So the boys have been out there for about 8 minutes, and obviously they're feeling pretty cooked after being in the race for almost 40 minutes, full gas so far. And if you heard a little bit of that commentary earlier with JP and I think CJ, they're looking to go full aero and push out less watts in order to save their legs because they're not super confident that this 3-man break's going to be able to stay away. I think there's too many strong riders in this that the peloton want to kind of bring right back. So let's go aero. Let's keep our legs fresh because if we get brought back, we want to have some legs for the final sprint. So I just thought I wanted to highlight some interesting commentary from the on-the-bike footage from the boys about how they're talking around their tactics moving forward in this break. We've skipped ahead 30 seconds and we're back to Dino, and you can see there the boys are on the right-hand side. The breakaway's been brought back, and like when every time a group's been brought back, you've got to watch out for that counter-attack, and bang, straight away, it's like it's scripted. Off they go again. We've got Aidan Buttigieg and Tom Leaper in the break. And Dino's played this one really, really well. He's been sitting really quietly in the peloton telling me how miserable he's feeling. Well, mate, I don't trust you, mate, because you are already pretty animated, launching yourself back into a 3-man break that is looking really, really good. And I've been saying that in the last 3 breaks. But to be honest, they've been breaks that have been substantial ones. So every break this race has been threatening. And I think, and I'm fortunate enough to have cameras on the two boys that have been in every single break this race, which is really, really cool. So here we are. We've got Tom Leaper, we've got Aidan Buttigieg, both in this three-man break. And look, there's still 17Ks left. There's still a long way to go in this race. But because Jensen, Al, we also have CJ have already been in the break, that's three really strong riders who aren't really all that fussed, who have done their work. They're wanting the other riders to put in those hard yards to bring this one back. But the question is, who's going to be able to do it? And for the boys in the current break now, you can see in the rear cam, we've got three more riders coming across. We're going to have Tom. He's going to be in the break. We've got Pat coming along in his beautiful white business shirt. And you'll see a rider number 46 also joining the break. I'm not too sure of your name. If you do know who that rider is, please comment below. So, look, we're going to skip ahead a couple of Ks where we're going to have a look at the form of the riders that are in this break. So we take it from there. With a little bit over 14 Ks left and about 15 minutes left of racing, Dino's just pulled through a turn. You can see more and more gaps are starting to open up in these riders as people pull off turns. Less and less people are willing to roll through. Legs are getting very, very heavy. People are just fatigued and tired after a brutal race. And look, I say this every week, but with A grade, if you can finish a race, then you've done a ripper job. So, but with this group just slowly and surely working their way to the finish line, let's jump back to the great JP to find out what's happening in the Pello. All right, we're back on board with JP, and the pace up until this moment has been relatively easy with not many riders looking to do any massive turns, or no one's really too motivated to bring that break back. They think the race is gone. But CJ as well as JP have very different ideas in mind. They think this is still a possibility. They don't want those riders who are out, those 6 riders out in front, to win this race. So they're going to do whatever they can to pull it back. So CJ basically gets on the front. The pace was before this around the 40s. He gets on the front and absolutely rips it. 52 kilometers an hour, 400 watts just to stay in the wheels. And you've got to, have a moment of thought that goes towards the guys that are sitting at the back of this peloton. You can see how strung out it is in the rear cam. They are getting absolutely blown apart. And CJ's basically just put everyone to the sword and said, I'm animated to bring this one back. If you're not here to help me, well, you're going to be flung off the back, mate. And basically flicks the elbow, and JP is there in exactly the same mind. He's thinking they want to bring this one back. JP gets nice and aero, pushes out 600 watts with speeds up to 52, 53 kilometers an hour. You just feel sorry for the Rosetta guy in the rear cam now. He's pain faced just to stay on the wheel and hold the shoe. And as someone who is normally at the back of the bunch in this sort of situation, right now all you're thinking is, this is not going to be sustained. The effort that we're putting in now is not going to be sustained for a long period of time. So you've just got to do whatever you can to try to stay with it. So onto the main straight, Jensen flicks the elbow, looks around to see who's going to pull through, has a drink of water when he sees the pace come back down. It's really, really hard for any amateur rider to hold that pace. He joins back onto the Pello, so to recover for the next attack, but unfortunately, disaster strikes.
Fuck.
As he's entering that top corner, he clips a pedal, hits the deck, another rider goes down with him, and that's
Sorry, man.
race over for JP. Unfortunately, crashes are a part of crit racing, a part of riding your bike, if it's mountain bike or road. Unfortunately, no one likes being in a situation where they're on the deck. Fortunately for this, both JP and the rider that was on the ground now were fine. They had a couple of grazes, a couple of cuts on them, no dramas at all. Also, most importantly, the bikes were fine. But yeah, look, crashes suck. It does. But look, it's one of those things. In other news, Dino's still on the break. So why don't we skip a little bit further ahead in this clip and let's see how this rest of the race plays out. There's a lot long left. So we're back on board with Dino. You can see just as the clip began, the race commissaire held up a sign with 2 laps left. The boys have been pulling perfect turns up until this time. They had 2 other riders that have now fallen off the back. I wish I could insert the clips of Pat looking like he was gone for sure about 3 dozen times, but kept fighting back. It was impressive stuff. So Aiden Buttigieg just flicked the elbow. Dino's gone to the front, and now the games begin. Now, Dino's not even putting out a huge amount of power here, and he's just literally rolled himself off the front. He's now noticed that there's a bit of a gap, so he started to push the pedal in a little bit harder and kicking up to 400 watts now. But, as he looks behind, the chase is on. Aiden's rocking and rolling to get back onto the wheel. And now this is where the games begin. As they round this next corner, they're going to be on with 2 laps to go. Now, if you're a smart rider, you're going to be wanting to enter, trying to sit on the back of the group, not really pull any turns. But these guys all know Tom Leaper's got an elite 1-minute power, and off he goes there. Absolutely launches it from second wheel. Tom looks behind. He's got nothing left. Dino tries to go with him. 600 watts, heart rate up to almost 190 beats per minute. Tom's giving it absolutely everything to try to get across, but it's no good for Tom Leaper, who sends it off the front. We're down to 1 lap to go. This is the bell lap, so it's all or nothing. If you've got any watts left, you're going to want to bring this group back, but it doesn't look like it's going to be done. Dino's at 192 beats a minute. He's absolutely blowing, and he's hoping that one of these other riders come through. Dino's been on the front for a fair bit of time now. It's time for Tom to do some work. He rolls to the front. Dino should be looking around, finding Aiden's wheel to jump onto and sit in. Get in that draft, Dino, which he does pretty much instantly. Aiden then steps on at 800 watts. Dino wants to stay in his wheel. Tom wants to do the same. It's now an absolute fight to grab a hold of wheels. Aiden's putting an absolute huge effort here. Flicks the elbow, wants Tom to come through. Not too sure why he'd do that. Who's he leading out, Tom? Dino sits in behind. Aiden's now sitting in third, effectively 4th overall. Tom then lights it up on this, the last straight before the final, as he comes around this corner, hitting that apex, avoiding the car narrowly. It's come to the final straight. Tom's given an absolute everything. Dino's giving it everything. Aiden's been sitting into Dean's draft, and he just sends it straight past him. Dino's fighting for third wheel now. And there is the race over, ladies and gentlemen. So Tom Leaper gets first from an absolute huge effort, sending it on the last lap. This means Tom is second, Aiden's third, Dino picks up a very, very respectable 4th. And that's the end of the bike race, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for sitting through this. I do love all the comments. I do love all the likes. But most importantly, if you guys want a dozen drones flying around tracking this race course, please hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. And tell your friends. Not too sure when the next video is going to be up. Stay tuned. That's why you subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Ciao.